Okay, this is one of the bigger stories of the month. For Bungie, it all comes down to the final shape, right? This is the final roll of the dice for a team that has been utterly battered over the last 12 weeks. It's been kind of insane. Players obviously rejected their last year of work. Management have cut staff to get this expansion out the door. The team has just been having a shit show, and PlayStation are circling in like vultures. And that's something that I say literally because it's written into the acquisition deal that should Bungie underperform, Sony people can basically move in on the board. So, what Bungie did not need is for the game to launch to rather rapturous applause, and then for a lot of players to be, well, completely unable to experience it because of crashes, bugs, and technical issues. There's a lot to get into. This is an important story for the industry. Let's go. And of course, if you'd like to support the team behind this channel, because it is more than just me, believe me, if you want to support that team, you can check out more of what they make, more of what we do at Bellular.games, where, as just one thing that we do, you can get loading screen delivered fresh to your inbox every single day, where we're covering new games as they're coming out, we're covering industry stories as they come out, and doing analysis on topics that don't always make it into full videos on the channel. I absolutely love loading screen. It's fantastic, and I hope you do as well, and you can check it out at Bellular.games. With that said, back to Destiny. Now, the modern problems with Destiny are basically summed up by Lightfall. It was one of the worst received elements of Destiny ever. And you know the deal. Player counts plummeted. They were actually tracking revenue 45% below expectation, which is brutal for a company like that, and things only got worse. They had technical difficulties throughout Lightfall with the seasons, and Bungie's management, of course, were trying to monetize the game even harder. Then we came to the 4-month delay, right? The delay of the Final Shape's launch, and that coincided with nearly a tenth of Bungie's staff being laid off, including many senior staff members. That is something that spooked just about everybody, because those are the people who train up the new employees, the people who, yes, they might cost more per hour, but the idea is you get a lot of value out of them per hour. This all led into an extended season of The Wish, and then, of course, Into the Light, which was a free season, a smaller season, to fill in that gap. And the funny thing is, Into the Light was actually one of the best received seasons of gameplay recently. Some people saying that it was actually better than many paid seasons. They also did a bunch of things like giving people free access to prior expansions before the launch of this current expansion. And Into the Light was really generous. Like, if you wanted to catch up on, exotics and stuff that you hadn't got from past content, they gave you faster ways to do that. So in a way, all was looking up, but then days before the launch, there was an accidental leak of the expansion's contents. This is via a cloud build on the PS5. That risked spoiling everything, and now, after 25 hours of downtime, between 100 and 300 gigabytes of data to install, Destiny 2 The Final Shape has released. And Bungie have already had to apologize after widespread reports of, it's not just like error 37 with Diablo 3. Oh no, there are many error codes, and it's not just the server queues. Bungie ended up doing this post saying, "Hey everyone, if connection issues have blocked you from playing or enjoying the Final Shape today, we want to apologize. We're hard at work trying to resolve each of those issues as quickly as is possible, and many of the connection issues from the morning have already been fixed." So, before we talk about sentiment and what people are saying about the new campaign and the content, let's talk about those issues, right? So, Bungie knew that there were some. They posted known issues just before the expansion came out. This is a fairly normal thing. Sometimes QA will just find things faster than devs can fix them, and ultimately it's not actually up to Bungie to do a delay, right? Like a week-long delay to fix the final known issues. They can't really do that. This is coordinated between, retail distribution, partners of all kinds. You know what I mean, especially when it's a game like this, where you have hundreds of thousands of players, and a pretty stupid number of people, like across all of the different orgs who will be working to support the launch. Any delay will basically mean all of those resources that were allocated towards doing the launch, those now all get screwed around. So, not the sort of thing they could realistically, given their sphere of control, do much about other than try to fix them as soon as they could. So what they said they knew of was a few instances of pretty damn clear interaction bugs that just hadn't been fixed yet, the potential for progress issues with fire teams clearing the campaign. They issued specific guidance on that, and then even the funny thing of 3D audio simply not working. But turns out the known issues are not really the problem. Obviously, there were server queues. A lot of people wanted to play this expansion. I like this. Tom Moran posted this screenshot of Twitch in and around launch, and it very much is like, it's the loading screen meta. Absolutely, 100%. And what this has unfortunately done, perhaps, is kind of hurt them. Destiny was actually well on track to beat its all-time high player count from the Lightfall launch. But we can see that while it's going up and up and up, then we have an immediate drop as the servers basically start cycling as the night rolls on. And of course, that's as the night rolls on, and that is going to pretty much cap you in terms of your maximum concurrency. I would expect, though, these numbers to go up and up and up. As an example, I'd initially planned to play Destiny 2 yesterday for the sake of today's video, and then I realized, hang on a second, it's a massive game launch for an online game. That would be stupid. So I'll save my gameplay experience for a video kind of recapping things in a few days. Now, there is a really funny dimension to this, and it's one that actually I think is a lesson for a lot of developers. So, the bug codes, right? It's not just Error 37, it's led to memes like this. Who would win? And, you know, on the one side we see the expansion, on the other one we see, fruits, vegetables, and an animal. And the reason why is that, that maintenance is ongoing as they continue to investigate cabbage, currant, and weasel. Yes, so they're basically having these, I suppose, generated, maybe it's like, you know, when you get a sort of auto-generated password, or, you know that thing where it's like 3 words and that's just your location on Earth? What that actually means, right, is it's more human readable. That means it's actually easier to collate feedback and for users to understand what the specific problems are. So I actually think that's really smart, and the memeing, of course, does help with camaraderie. Now, I don't say that to make light of the situation, because some of the most significant issues actually do impact the gameplay experience. A real bad one is people not being shown cutscenes. Now, this is important, right? In a normal expansion, you know, it would be bad enough, but this is the final hours of the final big story of Destiny 2, which is also end story of Destiny 1, because it's that whole big saga. That is not when you want your cutscenes to break, and that does mean that a lot of players have been quite rightly furious, actually, because if you've been invested in this world for a decade, right, and a lot of people have, you know, the people who have watched the Lore Daddy 10-hour-long video, they go in here, and actually, at the end of the campaign, or near the end of the campaign, there's a really big cutscene. It doesn't play, they're yoked into the next thing, and now the experience has kind of been messed up. What if there is some major character reveal where you don't see it, but after the cutscene, you maybe see a character's dead, and now that's been spoiled for you, right? Problems like that are rough, and this is where Steam gets interesting, because we see a 36% review score on the final shape. 36% of 1,154 reviews. All right, so that's pretty damn rough. The thing is, though, if you actually zoom out, you can see that the overall game Destiny 2 is doing far, far better. And I think that's because if you have a negative sentiment that you want to express, generally speaking, you're going to go to more lengths to do that, right? So that's why when we take a look at the overall reviews, we can see 804 positive reviews have been left. And while there have been plenty of negative reviews, it is certainly not the ratio that we're seeing on the DLC. Responding to this immediately is kind of tricky. Bungie are pretty deep in the fixing realm right now, and they are already reporting some significant stability improvements. That's as of the time of this being recorded. Hopefully that is better a few hours later when you see this video. Now, it's not all ideal. Some of those fixes are stopgap measures, like explaining to players that they can replay missions to see the cutscenes, and they've even went so far as to signpost which missions have one. Like, they straight up say it's missions 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that are the ones that matter. They tweeted that. So you can see that this is, this is an important issue. The campaign then, especially following Lightfall, Bungie absolutely needed this to work. People need to feel like their 10-year investment in the franchise is actually worth it, and also they need to have a reason to continue. Unfortunately, a lot of people are saying very good things. Aztec Ross, as an example, just finished the campaign. Holy hell, ... later saying 10 out of 10. And there are a lot of people saying similar things. Now I can totally understand immediately going, oh, copium. A Destiny 2 content creator likes the new Destiny 2 thing? This is insane. And I know what that's like. There's been times where I've thought a Warcraft thing is good, and people have just said, yeah, but that's just because you do Warcraft stuff and your channel's actually shit. So I do get skepticism there, and we'll need to wait until like more opinions overall go out. But generally speaking, across all the people that I follow and look at for this, they're happy. And it's not just that. Obviously, the mechanics like the prismatic subclass and basically the stuff with aspects, all of the customization, that seems to be working. As an example, Paul Tassi, who covers, he's covered Destiny 2 for a long-ass time, saying prismatic was odd at first, starting to come together. The new Warlock super rules. The story wasn't grabbing him, but is getting good after a thing. It's nice to have Cade back, doesn't feel gimmicky, and the environmental design is some of the best ever. Certainly from their trailers and that kind of thing, yeah, the environmental design looks pretty damn sick. Basically, the new sort of play space that you're in is inside the Traveler. It looks really cool. You kind of linearly go through it, and then it opens up a bit more big time after you've finished for the post game. And look, I don't want to sit here just reading people's tweets forever, but big picture stuff is actually going quite well. Taking a look at Steam, yes, there are negative reviews. In very, very large part, those are because of the rough launch and the technical problems. But something is responsible for the very large number of positive reviews that have surged in since the damn thing came out. And so it really is funny compared to Lightfall. Lightfall would be followed by a lot of technical problems as, content went on, but it was a pretty solid launch. Obviously, people were left cold by the campaign. This is really the opposite situation. People are quite loving the campaign. I've seen people say that this is basically them kind of doing what like Halo Bungie used to do with campaigns, but obviously they've had a great campaign, but the monkey's paw has curled and they have had a rather rough launch. And of course, one thing that's going to matter a lot here is money, and it's going to matter for several different reasons. Number one, they're a business. They need to make money, obviously. Number two, they are a unit of Sony. Sony need them to make money. We've had a lot of Sony's real heavy hitters, right? Like even Insomniac Games face layoffs. Bungie have faced layoffs. There are financial fundamentals that are underpinning that. Now, of course, a lot of us would say that those layoffs seem needless, that they are very much a, line go up at all costs, even if it's the people problem, sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, you could say. But absolutely, with us being a year out of them being 45% under the revenue projections, this does matter, especially because of that acquisition contract that essentially means that if Bungie fails to hit certain targets, Sony, let's just say they have some options opened up to them. And the other side of this is staff worries that basically in 2026, that is when some of the higher up leadership of the company will have their stuff vest. Like whatever shares or, sort of pay package, whatever, came from the acquisition deal. So people are also a bit worried that if things aren't looking amazing come 2026, a lot of those more experienced people or leadership will just jump away, which of course is scary to people because it means that their leaders have incentives that are not aligned with their incentives. Now, early tracking was suggesting more than 1 million pre-orders several hours before the launch, which certainly is quite strong. But of course, this is a live service game. One round of sales is absolutely not what they need. What they need is for this expansion to reactivate the audience and then keep them through the seasons, because again, PlayStation's new board is absolutely looking at them. So let's talk about this, the more meta side, the business side, and the backdrop of Bungie's management facing some of those tough questions. They were personally singled out by Hiroki Totoki, who was the interim CEO. They were singled out as being a problem during his tour of various studios, and he basically said it was their inability to keep production in line with expectations, amongst other things. He said it politely, but when a CEO says that kind of thing, it absolutely should be scaring you if you are the target. That sentiment has not changed under the new leadership, though. In the PlayStation investor call last week, a Goldman Sachs analyst specifically challenged Nishino and Hulst, who are the two new co-CEOs, on the status of Bungie within the wider group. The question was specifically relating to Bungie not yet generating a return that actually covers the cost of their acquisition and then their integration into Sony, and both of the co-CEOs essentially downplayed the issues. Hulst framed it as Bungie having value in terms of how they are now being further integrated into Sony Interactive Entertainment via support of the live services. And if you want a deeper dive into that, I believe our video on that is actually out right now, so it should be on the channel for you to view. I think it also came out the day this one does. It's really interesting diving through Sony's financials, where we essentially see that the big premium AAA games are a little bit on the down, and we essentially see exactly why they're doing things like Concord. But anyway, going back to this, they are not expected to be profitable this past fiscal year on their own terms. Bungie, that is, and this was explained by the fact that significant spend is happening on the development of Marathon, and PlayStation have high hopes for the final shape. So that is what we learned from the co-CEOs. It's important to remember that this is just the start. What will happen next is the raid drops on the 7th of June. By that time, I think there's a high potential that many of the problems will be fixed. So, if the next few days are a storm of content creators and press basically saying, "We're so back," then it will be a good position for Bungie to be in, because a poor launch in terms of technical things does not kill a game. Helldivers 2 rather shows us that, but it could give returning players pause. A lot of people have been skeptical. News of this rough stuff, that will definitely make them maybe want to wait a few days until they make their purchase. The thing is, though, it seems that the fundamentals underpinning this expansion, in terms of systemic changes, the quality of the campaign, those things do actually seem to be strong. Often, if the fundamentals are strong and you haven't completely missed your shot in terms of timing, you do have a great chance. And it does seem that that's what they've got here. And for me, that means a few big things for the future of Destiny. Number one, monetization. I mean, most recently, I think we saw Dungeons & Dragons collab. How are they going to do that? Because there has been really sketchy monetization in the past. People talking about essentially guaranteeing god rolls, which is a fairly rough thing for a loot-driven game to be found doing, or to be considered to be doing by some. So, will monetization get worse or get better? I mean, certainly the pressure from Sony would suggest that worse is the direction of travel, unless they are able to have numbers so good that they can push back in that. The next thing for me then, this is the end of the Light and Dark saga. What is the next thing? Will your players simply just wander off? And to that I would say, I think Destiny has some strengths that Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker actually didn't have. Which is just to say, Endwalker, I really did love it. It has had not the most amazing post-launch support, but as a game, it is not as like goopy gamer brain number go up. Whereas if you look at Destiny, it is very much goopy gamer brain number go up. And I think that those progression hooks being deep in players' heads probably be pretty effective at keeping the gameplay going. If they can sell their new narrative by pulling off a campaign of similar quality to this one, then maybe we could be going somewhere. But that is a lot of ifs. So what I want to know is, what do you think? What has your experience been? We will all gather back here in a few days. You guys can share how you found it. I'll share with you how I found it, and we'll have a good time. Okay, that's it for me. Go check out Bellular.games if you want to support our team, and also get Loading Screen in your inbox every day. With that, cheers, and I will see you next time.